In a time when metal meant strength and progress, nobody expected a warplane made almost entirely of wood. It seemed crazy. Everyone thought steel and aluminum were the only materials for war. Plywood, spruce, balsa, according to military leaders, these materials were better suited for furniture or toys but not for the battlefield. But British engineers decided to create something special from them. They called it the wooden wonder, but the doubters whispered scornfully, "Freeman's folly, an engineering gamble doomed to fail." Europe was burning, the Third Reich ruled the skies, and it seemed the Allies had no chance to turn the tide of the air war. And so, on November 25, 1940, the de Havilland Mosquito took to the air. No machine guns, no armor, but faster than even the legendary Spitfire. It was a true challenge to tradition. Most people had the same unspoken question in their eyes: how? The secret lay in a bold and brilliant idea. All in on speed and maneuverability instead of protection. The lightest possible design allowed it to escape the enemy. The Ministry of Aviation wanted heavy bombers, but Geoffrey de Havilland proposed a light, unarmed plane made of plywood. A decision that seemed absurd. The project was rejected. But the team didn't give up and worked in secret, risking everything for their idea. Their excitement and belief in success were stronger than the fear of failure. It was a gamble on the edge. Every test flight was a step into the unknown. Despite bureaucracy and skepticism, they believed being hard to catch was the best defense. Their plane could slip through where others were doomed. The story of the Mosquito is a challenge to all the rules, a risk that could have been either a triumph or a failure. But it's decisions like these that changed the course of history. At a time when everyone was betting on metal, they chose wood, and surprised the whole world. But few know that the Mosquito wasn't just built in aircraft factories. Some of the production was set up in regular furniture workshops across Britain to hide the project from the enemy and speed up production. Another unique fact, the Mosquito was one of the first British planes to have an experimental radar system, which allowed it to successfully perform night interceptions and reconnaissance in complete darkness. When Britain needed a hero, it was the late 30s. Germany was building up its navy, threatening Britain's shipping lanes. The island nation relied on supplies and resources were stretched thin. German U-boats were sinking convoys and the British Navy was spread out. A new tool was needed, something fast, long-range and able to strike the enemy in their own backyard. The Air Ministry wanted a heavy armed bomber, but aluminum was scarce and factories were busy making fighter planes. De Havilland came up with a bold idea, to use wood and the skills of furniture makers. An airplane that wouldn't fight but would simply outrun its pursuers. Speed and altitude instead of armor and gun turrets. This wasn't just a new machine, it was a new way of fighting. The Mosquito became the answer to the lack of resources and time. It didn't compete for metal, it used what was plentiful. That's how an idea was born that changed air warfare. The Mosquito was the first British aircraft to make successful long-range reconnaissance flights over Berlin, bringing back unique photos that other planes of that time couldn't get. Another amazing fact, the Mosquito was used for super-fast delivery of very important diplomatic messages and secret cargo between London and the Allies, when other ways were too dangerous or slow, and Britain got a chance to be saved. The Mosquito wasn't born in offices but in the minds of engineers. It wasn't just a project, it was a challenge to common thinking, an attempt to create something impossible during wartime. Geoffrey de Havilland and Ronald Bishop came up with a revolutionary idea. No weapons, just speed. Their concept seemed crazy, but that was its strength. The government officials were shocked. A plane without machine guns? Madness. The military was used to heavy armored machines and couldn't believe in the success of a light wooden design. The project was rejected again and again, but the team didn't give up. Each rejection only made them more determined. In March 1940, without a contract or support, they started building the prototype at their own expense. It was a risky move that demanded full dedication. All the work was done in secret, at Salisbury Hall Estate, away from prying eyes. A new era of aviation was being born there. The risk was huge. Failure would mean the end of the company and the collapse of a dream. Every day the team worked as hard as they could. The key to success was the sandwich design, 2 layers of plywood with balsa in between, glued together with new resins. This technology made the plane light, strong, and perfectly aerodynamic. The wing was one piece, without rivets, smooth as glass. This allowed the Mosquito to literally glide through the air, leaving its competitors behind. This technology gave the Mosquito an incredible advantage in speed and maneuverability, making it almost impossible for the enemy to catch. It was an engineering challenge to the age of metal when everyone believed only in steel and aluminum. The team worked with passion, believing in the idea and supporting each other through the toughest times. Their boldness changed the rules of the game, proving that courage and self-belief can work wonders. The Mosquito became a symbol that sometimes risk is the only way to succeed, and thinking outside the box opens up new possibilities. One unexpected problem was the shortage of aviation plywood. Because of the war, wood supplies were at risk, and engineers had to search for materials even in furniture workshops all over England. Another little-known fact is sabotage from competitors. Some makers of metal planes tried to convince the government that the Mosquito was unreliable, spreading rumors about its weakness and how it wouldn't last long. The idea that everyone thought was crazy turned out to be brilliant. That's how the story of a legend began, changing the course of the war and people's lives. Salisbury Hall wasn't just a fancy house, it was a secret lab where even the address was kept hidden from most of the people working there. Here, engineers, woodworkers, chemists, and even piano makers all worked together. Their skills with wood were super important. Funny things happened too. Once the plane's body wouldn't fit through the door, so they had to take down the wall. For the Mosquito, they picked special, souped-up Rolls-Royce Merlin engines. There were problems like the engines getting too hot and almost catching fire. They had to quickly fix the cooling system. They put new radiators right into the wings, which also made the plane fly even better. The way they built the plane's body, like a sandwich, was a big deal. They made two halves separately, then glued them together. They kept the first Mosquito planes hidden under nets and moved them at night so no one would see them. This way of working helped them make a lot of planes quickly. Their way of building things became a perfect example for others. All the messages between different teams were in code. Even simple internal letters were marked top secret. Inside these walls, they weren't just building a machine, they were building the future of flying. The Mosquito showed how brave engineers could be, and it proved that even in war, smart ideas can make a big difference. First flight into the unknown. D-Day, November 3, 1940. Prototype W4050 was secretly brought to the airfield. Bright yellow, sleek, it looked more like a race plane than a bomber. On November 25, Jeffrey de Havilland Jr. took the controls. Takeoff and the Mosquito easily soared into the sky. Speed 624 kilometers per hour, faster than a Spitfire. The skeptics were amazed, a wooden plane and such a result. The Mosquito turned out to be immune to interceptors, it simply flew away. After the first flights, the attitude towards the project changed. It was urgent to start mass production. During the first flight, the pilot noted unusual vibration in the cockpit. It was later found that the cause was resonance from improperly secured equipment. But the tests weren't always smooth. An interesting detail. After landing, engineers found a tag with the assembler's name on one of the wheels. They forgot to remove it before rolling out onto the runway. All minor blunders were fixed on the fly. The war wouldn't wait, every flight was a test of strength, but most importantly, the Mosquito proved its concept. Speed and lightness became its armor, and it was ready for battle. Thus began a new era in aviation. The Mosquito couldn't stay a secret for long. German intelligence was hot on its trail, trying to uncover its secrets. There were attempts to get spies into the de Havilland factories, but MI5 was always watching. Even the Americans were interested. Later, they even built the Mosquito in Canada. The Allies shared technology, but they also kept an eye on each other. The British even spread rumors on purpose, saying the Mosquito was flammable and unreliable to trick the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe. It worked. The Germans didn't realize how dangerous it was. Their first encounter with the Mosquito was a huge shock. It was just too fast. Legend has it that a pair of German Messerschmitt Bf 109s couldn't catch a Mosquito over the English Channel. When they got back, the Germans reported an unknown plane with incredible speed. That was the first surprise for the Luftwaffe, but it wouldn't be the last. The Mosquito became a symbol of British cleverness and secrecy. Its success wasn't just about its technology, but also about how well they tricked the enemy. War isn't just about fighting, it's also a game of minds. The Mosquito won both. Here's a cool fact. The Mosquito was often used for secret missions, dropping agents and supplies to resistance groups in occupied Europe. It would fly at night, super low to the ground. Another interesting thing is that specially changed Mosquitoes were used for top-secret aerial photos. This let the Allies get detailed pictures of important places that other planes couldn't reach. Duel in the skies. The Mosquitoes' main rival was the Messerschmitt Bf 109, the terror of the European skies. This German fighter was thought to be one of the best in the world. The Allies feared it, and Luftwaffe pilots were really proud of it. On paper, the German plane was faster, but in real fights, the Mosquito always got away. Because it was so light and easy to move, it often slipped away even from the best pilots. Its speed and height made it safe from most fighters. The Mosquito could fly where other planes just couldn't reach it. The Mosquito carried as many bombs as a B-17, but it flew like a fighter. It was a true all-rounder, a scout, a bomber, and a night fighter, all in one plane. The Focke-Wulf FW-190 was dangerous at low heights, but the Mosquito could fly higher. Even the newest German planes couldn't catch it at high altitudes. German ace pilots admitted it was almost impossible to catch a Mosquito. Even the best Luftwaffe pilots often came back empty-handed. Here's a cool fact. The Mosquito was one of the first planes to get a radar on board. This helped it successfully catch German night bombers and even fight in total darkness, when the enemy wasn't expecting an attack. There were also some unusual tricks. Some Mosquito crews would paint over their gun ports to look unarmed and trick the enemy into coming closer. Then they'd suddenly open fire from a short distance. Göring was furious. "They have the Mosquito, it's made of wood." It really bothered him that the British wooden plane was faster and better than the German planes. The Germans tried to make their own version, the Ta-154, but it didn't work out. The glue would eat away at the wood and the planes would fall apart during testing. Rumor has it that British intelligence gave them faulty glue. This became one of the most mysterious acts of sabotage in the war. The German Mosquito never became widely used. Only a few dozen were built, and they couldn't change the course of the war. The British wooden wonder remained one of a kind. Even its enemies feared and respected it, and the Allies were proud of it. The engineers who chose wood, surprisingly, were ahead of their time. The Mosquito wasn't just a plane, it was a challenge to the entire Luftwaffe. It became a legend that people still remember today, and that challenge was accepted, but they never managed to defeat the Mosquito. The first big win was the raid on the Gestapo headquarters in Oslo, September 1942. 4 Mosquitoes flew super low and hit a specific target right in the city center. Quisling's parade was ruined, the Gestapo building was damaged, and the German air defense's reputation took a hit. Even losing one crew didn't make the success any less sweet. Next up, a raid on a Berlin radio station. Göring's speech was cut off, and so was Goebbels'. The Mosquitoes flew freely over the capital of the Reich without any trouble. These raids really messed with people's morale. There were other versions too, like the fighter-bomber RAF Mk II, which became a nightmare for the Germans. It carried cannons, machine guns, bombs, and rockets. It was a true all-purpose weapon. Mosquito night fighters successfully fought off German bombers. The Mosquito's versatility was amazing. It was a bomber, a fighter, and a reconnaissance plane. It became the Royal Air Force's Swiss Army knife. The Mosquito took on missions that other planes just couldn't handle. Its successes cheered up the Allies and really got to the enemy. The Mosquito became a legend even while it was still flying. Fun fact, the Mosquito was one of the first planes to use radar jamming and electronic interference to protect itself from German night fighters. Another cool story, Mosquitoes were used for special operations, disguised as German planes to sneak behind enemy lines and drop propaganda leaflets. The Mosquito changed the course of the war, as a scout, a bomber, and a fighter. Operation Jericho, the raid on Amiens prison, became legendary. It proved that speed and height were more important than armor. After the war, the age of piston planes ended, but the Mosquito's experience lived on. Composite and glue technologies found their way into the future. De Havilland became a pioneer in jet aviation. The Mosquito wasn't just about its wartime achievements, but also a technological breakthrough. Manufacturing in furniture factories saved aluminum and gave Britain thousands of planes. Almost 8,000 Mosquitoes were built and served all over the world. The last one was retired in 1963, but the legend lives on. The Mosquito is an example of how out-of-the-box thinking changes history. The wooden plane turned out to be tougher than steel. It changed the rules of the game in the skies of World War II. After the war, the Mosquito was used for super-fast mail and important cargo delivery between countries, setting speed records on civilian routes, a contribution often overshadowed by its combat fame. Another interesting fact, the Mosquito was the first aircraft widely used for aerial photography and cinematography, opening a new era in aviation film and cartography. The Mosquito didn't just become a symbol of British smarts. It was also the first plane to successfully fly super long-range photo missions over enemy lands, giving the Allies super important info. Because it was so fast and hard to spot, the Mosquito was used to secretly drop off agents and gear in occupied Europe. These missions stayed hidden for a long time. Its special abilities changed how spying and secret operations were done. The Mosquito, a work of art made of wood and glue but with a tough spirit, it proved that the smartest ideas are often simple and unexpected. Today, only a few Mosquitoes are left in the world, and every time they fly, it's a living memory of a legend. It was a battle of minds where the bravest and most creative won. The Mosquito, the result of a big war and big ideas. So that's the story. How simple plywood became a powerful weapon. In our next videos, we'll talk about other equally famous planes and ships from World War II. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. That way you'll get a notification when our new episode comes out. Please give this video a thumbs up and see you soon in our next video, friends. Bye for now.